in front of you. It has taken some time to put this event together, but it is good to see the event finally taking shape. My sincere thanks to NSDC, especially Avneet, Edify, Hannah has been very supportive, and Dr. Mika from the Finnish Embassy in New Delhi for their support from the beginning when we conceptualized what we intend to do for this event. And also to my colleague Una from the embassy, who has been coordinating this event from the beginning. The event is taking place under the banner of India Meets Finland. Some of you may be aware that this is a joint collaboration between the Embassy of India and the Finnish side to highlight and discuss cooperation on themes of mutual interest. And the first event under this theme took place in March 2021. It was a very successful event on the topic of digitalization. And this one is the second in that series. And I'm very conscious that this is perhaps the first time we are discussing the topic of vocational education in a bilateral framework. Cooperation in vocational education between the two countries does not have a long history. This is a modest beginning. There is an MOU between NSDC and Edify, also NSDC and Omnia, which was signed in 2019. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we really could not do much to implement the decisions which we had to take. But in the course of preparations for this event, I think the areas of collaboration got sharpened a little bit. We did realize that there is a huge potential in this sector, and I think it was important and imperative for both countries to discuss. With other countries, we have different models of cooperation in this sector. You know, we have engaged with government and non-government organizations. It is working very well with countries like Japan, for example, through the technical intern training program. We also have an ongoing program with GCC countries, including UAE and Saudi Arabia, through both G2G and B2B collaboration. And we also have ongoing cooperation with Germany and a few other EU countries. Without judging the outcome of today's event and also keeping in mind the restrictions on time, I envisage a six-fold objective for future cooperation in this field. Some of them are low-hanging fruit, some of them are going to be achieved in the course of today's session. Others are a little bit ambitious, but I think it is certainly achievable. Our first objective is to introduce and familiarize each other with the vocational education best practices prevailing in India and Finland. I think this is important to know what our strengths are, what we expect from each other, and also to understand the role played by NSDC and Edify in this ecosystem. Second, to focus on topical areas of interest to each country. This time, for example, we have identified digital skills and health and wellness. Third, identify avenues for future cooperation in this sector and how Finland and India can combine their efforts and collaborate with each other in VUT. And I think the last session on future areas of collaboration will touch upon some of these topics. Fourth, on a broader perspective, how can Finland contribute to Skill India program and how this aspect will strengthen our bilateral cooperation in general and education sector in particular. Fifth, bringing relevant stakeholders together, including from the business. This event has already in many ways achieved that objective. Lastly, bridging the skills shortage in Finland and whether we can work together to promote overseas mobility of skilled and certified Indian workforce. We are all aware that Finland has a serious shortage of skilled labor. During the virtual summit which took place between the Prime Ministers of India and Finland, India was mentioned as one of the main countries or target countries of Finland's Talent Boost program. We have conceptualized the India International Skills Center network, comprising of member organizations working on a market-led model to cater to an internationally mobile workforce. Can we use the VET model to equip and train the Indian workforce to the demand of the Finnish industry? So these are the 5-6 objectives I could visualize picture, from this session. We know that skilling is a way to propel the growth of a nation and to make the youth self-reliant. And there is a very ambitious target which we have, and I'm sure NSDC will touch upon that in their presentation. And I think going forward, we have to see how the two nodal agencies, who are also partners for today's event, Edify and NSDC, they are able to take this cooperation forward. But once again, I'm very happy to welcome all of you, all the guests to today's event. I'm very sure that the brainstorming which we will have today will throw up future areas of collaboration in this sector, promote understanding of each other's systems and priority areas, and also strengthen cooperation between NSDC and Edify. It is good to see both sides coming together on one platform. I wish all of you, all the participants, and all the panelists a very successful deliberation. And thank you once again for joining this event. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency, for your vision and setting the agenda for today's webinar. Over to His Excellency, Ms. Ritva Kokkurande. She is the Ambassador of Finland to India. Ms. Kokkurande joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1985. She's worked in several positions at the ministry and in the countries such as Bonn, Nairobi, and Berlin. In 2019, Ms. Rande was appointed as the Ambassador of Finland to India and has sparked active work in the fields of 5G, 6G, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and much more. She's also currently the European Union Gender Champion. I would request Ms. Kokkurande to speak, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair Ruchika Tandor. Dear Ambassador Ravesh, it's such a pleasure to work with you, and I'm getting every day very much energy from your energy, actually, and our agenda is actually the same: how to strengthen the cooperation in various fields between our two countries. It's my great pleasure and honor also to make some opening remarks in this seminar. And I fully agree with the ambassador of the 6 points, how we see this actually cooperation as well, and our priorities. I will go a little bit deeper in some of the areas in my remarks, but before that, I would wish to thank the organizers for putting this important event together. And I really hope that this is a very useful day in order to get exactly some more concrete steps also in these priority areas. I share Ambassador Kumar's sort of goal also to have these concrete results also. Vocational education and training, VET, is under pressure everywhere because of changes we are facing in labor market. Due to the digital transformation, migration, COVID was mentioned, aging, and many other challenges which are putting our societies into a stress test. There is saying that predicting is difficult, and especially difficult it is to predict the future. Even more difficult it is now when technological development is getting faster, being enhanced by such powerful tools as artificial intelligence and quantum technologies, for instance. Difficult or not, It's vital to our societies to anticipate the future needs in education and in the labour market. What skills we need to provide today to keep the students as future ready as possible. Finnish education has been doing well in international comparisons of future readiness. Education for the Future has ranked Finland #1 in its capacity to provide future relevant education to the youth. Today we will learn from each other what we have been doing in the VET domain, what are our capacities and challenges, and what we could possible to do together in this important domain. We are very lucky to have so smooth collaborative relation between our countries and ministries. We both understand more than well that Finland and India have to meet in education, be it K-12, vocational or higher education. To provide more support for the education sectors, our Prime Ministers, Sanna Marin and Narendra Modi, in their meeting in March, raised educational dialogue as one of our future priorities. It is part of our national visions to strengthen our research and innovation capacities through more up-to-date education. International collaboration is a powerful tool to reach this objective. The Prime Ministers also noted that Finland and India will be focusing especially on the areas of digitalization and sustainability, which are very key issues also in development of the future VET. In order to jointly address the ongoing digital transformation, we have decided to focus on decisive future technologies such as 6G, AI and quantum computing. Meanwhile, COVID-19 has forced us to leap into the digital age in education more quickly than we would have done otherwise. However, we are lacking many key elements in our digital learning schemes. We need better connections, more personal support, and better capacities to modify the digital solutions to meet the actual needs of learning. Rather than just adapting ourselves and our education systems to what the IT companies have on offer. The crisis has also shown how crucial it is to provide digital skills to our students so that they could sit in the driver's seat when navigating towards the working life. Dear participants, I'm very happy to note that the key counterparts of this workshop, the National Skills Development Corporation and the National Agency of Education, are very natural partners to develop joint programs together. We have learned that the NSDC has many active programs and models already running with European countries. We will be happy to bring Finnish contents and practices to these well-tested and functional schemes. Finnish VET has been able to provide a high quality and well-esteemed study options to students by connecting them seamlessly to working life, either through employment or by providing necessary skills to start own businesses. Our capacities can also be used in upskilling of workers who would then have required skills and direct access to Finnish working life. It is also important that we are open with our agendas and needs. We in Finland are an aging society which needs new talents and workforce from outside. India, on the other hand, has the world's biggest talent pool waiting for high quality education and work opportunities. We are, by definition, a perfect match, and time is absolutely right to develop something sustainable together. We are also interested to connect these schemes to our National Talent Boost program, which would benefit largely not only of our education institutes and labour markets, but also Indian students and companies who would gain more skilled workers with some international experience. Another interesting aspect would be to include the Finnish companies in India and the Finnish Chamber of Commerce in India into these schemes to share their views and to offer their capacities and in turn positions for the use of Indian student community. Today, over 120 Finnish companies have operations in India, having set up manufacturing facilities, service centers, R&D centers, sales and marketing offices, thus generating employment in India. These companies include Nokia, Kone, Huhtamäki, Metso Outotec, Wärtsilä, Cargotec, Konecranes, Fortum, and many more. Also, several large Indian companies such as TCS, Infosys, Wipro, Motherson Sumi Systems, and Mahindra have invested in active operations in Finland to the tune of more than $1 billion. Finland is also a trusted R&D location and offers an excellent R&D and testing environment for new products, production methods, processes, or technologies. Indian companies can take advantage of a competent and experienced workforce, Finnish innovation capabilities, and a world-class R&D and startup ecosystem by investing and setting up their businesses in Finland. There is a lot of unused potential here, however. As a former EU gender champion, I was just giving the half-year gender champion to Estonia, actually, and after Estonia it would be Sweden. But anyhow, as a former EU gender champion, I like to always keep in mind that when creating study pathways and opportunities, we have to keep in mind gender equality and equity. And don't forget climate action, as we need to put this mission into our education agendas, whatever we develop together. Finland and India share similar ambitions in climate issues, and we should do it also here. There is also an increasing market potential for circular and climate-friendly solutions based on digital technologies and particularly better utilization of data. We have to aim at building a human-centric data economy. We need to respond to the digital transformation in a fair and just way that enhances citizens' trust in digital solutions, data security, and responsible handling of data. This is in line with the current Finnish government program, which has outlined a socially, economically, and ecologically sustainable society as our priority. Let's keep that in mind when taking together next steps on our road to more future-ready VET. Looking very much forward to a very fruitful seminar today, concrete results in due time, and I thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Kokarande, for your kind words and setting the national priorities for both the countries and international collaboration. Extremely pleased with your words. Thank you. May I request Ms. Hanna Otere, Counselor of Education, Finnish National Agency for Education, to join us, please. Ms. Hanna Otere has been working towards internationalization of Finnish vocational education and training, learning outcomes approach, and European cooperation. Ms. Otere coordinates Finnish VET providers global networks with various countries outside of European Union. Over to you, Ms. Hanna Otere.
Thank you very much. Let me start by trying to share my presentation. Okay, can you see it now in a presentation mode? Okay. So greetings from Helsinki, from the Finnish National Agency for Education, or as we call it briefly, Edify. I have a great pleasure to introduce you to the Finnish VET, but let me start by saying a couple of words about our agency. The National Edify, the National Development Agency, is under the Ministry of Education and Culture. Our agency is responsible for development of early childhood education and care, pre-primary, basic, general and vocational upper secondary education, as well as for adult education and training. Higher education is responsibility of the Ministry of Education and Culture. In the field of VET, Edify is responsible, for example, for skills forecasting and preparation of national qualification requirements. In Finland, we have had several VET reforms during the past 20-30 years. All these reforms have aimed to strengthen a competence-based approach and work-based learning. VET comprises of initial and further training and has many target groups: young people, adults, and people in working life who need either upskilling or reskilling, and also unemployed. A very important key principle is continuous competence development. And VET is offered in versatile learning environments, including VET institutions, workplaces, digital environments, and very various combination of these. VET is also highly attractive in Finland. It's kind of a long process. So 42% of the basic school leavers choose VET, but it's also very popular among adult students. We have looked for the reasons behind this attractiveness of VET, and we believe that it's very important that our VET not only provides professional skills, but also skills for lifelong learning. And another key feature is that VET, when you have a VET certificate, you are eligible for further studies at the tertiary level in universities and universities of applied sciences. And 90% of our VET teachers are qualified, which means that they have a master's degree in their own field, 1 year of pedagogical studies, and at minimum of 3 years of working experience in their own field. Of course, when we start developing the VET, the first question to ask is, what are the future competencies? What are we preparing our VET for? In Finland, the anticipation is high in the agenda. The Prime Minister's Office and Sitra, the Finnish Innovation Fund, coordinate the National Forest Site network and support anticipation activities and networking in Finland. Edify coordinates the Skills Anticipation Forum with its anticipation groups for 33 combined industries. And according to the Skills Anticipation Forum, the top most important 15 skills in 2035 are these shown on the slide. When you go through the list, you can see that the skills needed the most in the future are either generic working life or digital skills. Creativity, innovation, and ability to learn are some of the skills which will become also more and more important. Preparing for the future starts with anticipation of competence needs. The competence needs are also the starting point of the preparation of the national vocational qualification requirements, which are the responsibility of Edify, but prepared together in close connection with social partners and working life representatives. The most important thing is that the vocational qualifications actually reflect competence needs on the labor market. With the latest reform, the number of qualifications was decreased from 351 to 160, and qualification content was broadened to support individual learning pathways and to enable more rapid responses to the changing competence needs in working life. The national qualification requirements are the same for different target groups, both young people and adults, employed or unemployed, who need upskilling or reskilling. The key principles in every vocational qualification are flexibility in individual learning and qualification pathways. Another key principle is that prior learning is recognized and only the missing skills are acquired. Recognition of prior learning is based on learning outcomes or competencies and not on time. And the whole VT is focused on competencies and individual learner. Close cooperation with the working life through every step of the process, from anticipation all the way to the assessment and recognition of competencies, is central. We have a long tradition of tripartite cooperation, and it works at national, regional, and school levels. Skills forecasting and preparation of vocational qualification requirements are done together with the social partners, and working life is also participating in different ways in delivering of training with the education providers and assessment. More and more learning is shifted to the workplaces. I would normally start my presentation with this education system picture. Here you can see the VET illustrated in the orange boxes. There are three different types of competence-based qualifications: initial vocational qualification and further vocational qualification, which are referred to the European Qualification Framework Level 4, and the specialist vocational qualification referred to the EQF Level 5. The VET graduates are eligible to the tertiary education. Actually, 11% of the VET graduates continues to universities, and 66% continue to universities of applied science. All qualifications are divided into modules or units. At present, there are over 3,000 modules in the existing 160 qualifications. The key principles are flexibility and continuous competence development. The modular qualification structure makes the Finnish VT system flexible and offers opportunities for all individuals, also for upskilling and reskilling. The system allows individuals to flexibly utilize qualification modules and smaller parts corresponding to their own needs. They can return later to continue their studies and complete their qualification or update their skills. The modular approach doesn't only increase flexibility for individual learner, it makes it faster to react to the changing needs of the working life. When new competence needs appear, we do not need to review the whole qualification, but we can introduce a new module to a vocational qualification, such as using health technology. The vocational qualifications comprise of both vocational and common modules. Further and specialist qualifications, on the other hand, include only vocational modules, and the necessity for common modules are assessed when preparing the personal competence development plan. Vocational modules are either compulsory or optional. For example, one of the optional modules is called Working as Top Expert, which is a module developed together with Skills Finland for offering more possibilities to those who want to develop their vocational top excellence. I started my presentation by talking about the future skills, and it was clear that the need for generic skills, working life skills, and digital skills is growing. These skills are taken into account in common modules, but lifelong learning skills such as digital skills, communication and interaction, and entrepreneurial competencies are also incorporated into vocational modules. Entrepreneurship education is a good example. You can hardly avoid it. Entrepreneurial competence is blended into all vocational qualifications, and it is also offered as a module or separate qualification. So, how do we prepare for the future? How can we ensure the future-proof VT? The truth is that we can only face the future by ensuring that there are flexible ways to acquire the competencies whenever they are needed. The Finnish VT aims to the flexibility in every step of the process. The competencies can be acquired in different learning environments and ways and at different times. The key question or challenge is how we are preparing people for the future work and how we ensure that everyone has the access to lifelong learning. In the global world, there's no such thing that one size fits everyone, but we believe that we need modularized opportunities for initial training, upskilling and reskilling. And that is what the Finnish VT is aiming at, preparing for the future by offering flexible learning pathways and continuous learning opportunities for everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Hanna Autere. It was indeed an enriching presentation. And thank you very much for putting spotlight on the role of Finnish National Agency for Education in Vocational Education and Training and the principles of Finnish VET. Thank you so much. Now over to Ms. Maria Ekroth. We're joined by Ms. Maria Ekroth, who's the CEO of Skills Finland. She has extensive work experience in organizational management and event production. She was previously served for long periods as CEO of Lasten Liikuvuuden Commit and the Finnish Rheumatism Association. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. She's also worked as an entrepreneur in the event sector, taught at various universities, and has served on the board of many different organizations. Over to you, Ms. Maria Ekroth.
Thank you. Let's share my presentation. Can you see the presentation now? Can you see the presentation?
We can see it. Would you like to make it a little bigger?
Yeah.
Yes, it's
No,
perfect.
you can see
Yes.
now. Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. It's great pleasure to be able to tell how Skills Finland is improving the quality of VET and increasing the attractiveness of VET by competitions and skills training. Skills Finland is a non-profit organization, and here you can see our members and background organizations. And our objectives are improving the quality of VET, promoting the internationalization of VET, increasing the attractiveness of VET, and encouraging students to improve their professional and entrepreneurial skills. And we train and send the Finnish national team to international competitions, and we organize Taiteja, the national skills competition, and we also organize training and coaching for young professionals and competition specialists. And we are active members in national and international networks like World Skills International. And a couple of words about our strategy. So our strategic goals are offering opportunities to develop individual learning paths that improves learning results. As Hanna told, that we believe that they should be individual ones, and develop vocational competencies to meet changing job market demands. So we have to be in close cooperation with the working life all the time, and increase employability, entrepreneurship, and placement in further studies, and offer a chance for mutual learning and encourage individual companies and educational institutions toward continuous learning. Because continuous learning is the way we have to start to do to be able to be in so fast changing working life, and also raising awareness of VET and the opportunities within it. And this is our strategy picture, which just shows how we have to work in close cooperation with all the VET schools and occupational centers and working life to be able to increase the attractiveness and the quality of VET. And our national Taiteja event, we have combined three as one. So it's a Finnish championship in skills, and also with students with special needs and for pupils in the upper grades of comprehensive school when they are starting to think where to continue their studies. This is our president in our competition. And the purpose of Taitea is develop vocational training and promote professional excellence, and give also opportunities to teachers to network and improve their professional skills, give students an opportunity to meet others and compare their skills, increase cooperation between companies and educational institutions, strengthen the link between working life and vocational education, increase requirements, opportunities, connecting the demand with the supply, increase people's awareness and appreciation of various occupations and professional skills, and present career opportunities, what you can do with. And I might run out of time, so I might not show this video this time. And so just a couple of words about why do skills competitions work in Finland. Because the competitions are linked with national WET policy, and each competition will have own objectives. Every year we have a different objectives. Competition is a process. We are working the whole year together with the WET centers. It's not only a one event. And all the stakeholders are involved, also working life, and all the networks are working together. In a level long-term development activities, not just a project, not only one skill show and competition. And it's a positive, innovative, joyful way of cooperating and communicating. Couple of pictures of competitions, and this is what are our next international competitions where we are training our students for Skills Shanghai and International Olympics Moscow. And as you can see, our skills training system is for everyone, and it's a network. So we are working all together, companies, teachers, training systems coordinator from Skills Finland, students and educational institutions. And here you can see how the impact of competitions and skills training goes to the quality and how the companies become more competitive in our society. And we believe that participation in competition and skills training benefits everyone. So it's not just the competitors. The prize, it will rise the knowledge about everyone who is taking part of this. And after them, they go to the WET schools and they will teach what they have learned, and new people will learn the same things. And here are comments of some winners. Competitions encouraged me to apply for further studies at the University of Applied Science. Competing is a powerful tool to improve your professional expertise. And usually these people, they get a job immediately. Companies really want to have them. And competing improved my professional skills and made me step out of my comfort zone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Maria Hekruth, for giving us insights about Skills Finland and how your organization is training and coaching young professionals for competitions and making them specialists in WET. Thank you. Now, I have the privilege to introduce Mr. Vedmani Tiwari, Chief Operating Officer and Officiating CEO of National Skill Development Corporation. And he's joined by Dr. Avneet Kaur, Head International Collaborations and Corporate Strategy, NSDC. Mr. Vedmani Tiwari currently is serving as the Chief Operating Officer as an officiating CEO at NSDC and is responsible for managing the organization's operations. In his 30 years of professional experience, he has served the Government of India, and has worked with private sector in infrastructure, energy, urban development, and transportation. Joining him is Dr. Amit Kaur, who is a public policy development and organization management specialist with over 17 years of international experience. She is currently managing impact investments, international technical advisory services, and international workforce mobility. May I request Mr. Tiwari to begin, please.
Thank you so much, Ruchika, and very good morning to participants of this webinar in Finland, and good afternoon to those participating from India. His Excellency Mr. Ravish Kumar, Her Excellency Ms. Ritva Kokurande, Ms. Hannah Otier, Ms. Maria Ekroth, my colleagues from NSDC, and all the participants in this conference. This conference is happening at an important time when the humanity is just overcoming the challenges that COVID threw upon all of us. And the two topics that have been chosen for panel discussion, one on digital skills and the other on health and wellness, are very relevant in this backdrop. This COVID has clearly demonstrated that digital skills, which were considered as future skills or vocational skills, have today acquired the dimension of a survival skills. We found that in India, many communities with little or no access to good health facilities were greatly supported by volunteers and other social workers, just deploying the social media, power of social media and other digital skills. It clearly demonstrated that those who had access to and who were conversant with digital skills were better prepared to cope with this. Her Excellency Ms. Ritva Kokurande has very rightly laid out a very impressive agenda about digital skills and how digital skills can play an important role in our times to come. I would also like to say a few things about the collaboration in vocational education. As many of co-participants here would notice that over last few days, since last year, the new national education policy which came out, and over last few days, our Honorable Minister has talked a lot about how vocational education is becoming an integral part of the education system. I was very happy to see that there is a lot in the presentation of that I saw from Ms. Hannah Otier, which we are discussing day in and day out here in India. They are really important for us, and this partnership will definitely help us. So education and skilling are being given the importance in India also. And we know that European system and especially Finnish system has been at the forefront of preparing youngsters for the work life and making them responsible citizens. Today, there is a need to become global citizens because the challenges are common, both because of the pandemic that we went through and also the climate challenge that the ambassador talked about, that we all are going through. These are very important aspects that we would like to explore. I would request the panelists for the both panels, digital skills and health and wellness, to explore these dimensions, that how vocational education and education can prepare better for dealing with situations like this. The other aspect which has clearly been brought out in the Finland skills presentation, that how well the skill competition has been integrated into the skilling ecosystem of Finland. We are also a participant in World Skills, and these days we are having our regional and state competitions. But I think we will, going forward, we will learn that how do we integrate the entire competitive aspect of skilling into our skill ecosystem. So that is another thing that I think both sides can collaborate. The whole aspect about how companies in India, and the ambassador is very right that companies in India and Finland need to cooperate, both on learning how to prepare ourselves for the future, but also how we can exchange not only the best practices as His Excellency Mr. Kumar talked about in the vocational education, and also about meeting the skill shortfalls both in India and Finland. That can be an important topic for industry engagement. My colleague Dr. Avneet Kaur would be presenting the NSDC competencies. One of the areas that what NSDC has done, that we have incubated 36 sector skill councils, and each of these sector skill councils have a deep relationship with the companies in their sector. We would work with the sector skill councils so that they can engage with the Finnish companies in India, and how we can learn from these companies. And the internship and the apprenticeship is definitely a good opportunity to build a cultural integration. So these are some of the things that I believe that the webinars like this give us an opportunity to. And I'm so really thankful to His Excellency Mr. Ravish Kumar and Her Excellency Ms. Ritwa Kokurande to have blessed this webinar. You found time out of your busy schedules, and I'm sure that we all, I can see there are 126 participants in this webinar at this point of time. We all will be benefited through this this webinar. And I would like to thank organizers of this webinar who have worked very hard to bring all of us together, and look forward to many such interactions in the future. Thank you so much, Avneet, and thank you so much, Ruchika. And thank you, His Excellency Mr. Kumar and Her Excellency Ms. Ritwa Kokurande.
Thank you, Mr. Tiwari, for your introduction. And may I now switch over to Dr. Meet Kaur, please. If you're not audible, maybe you're on mute. We can't hear you. We can hear you now. Will you kindly begin, Avneet? Sorry again, we can't hear you.
Are you able to hear now?
Yes, but there's some echo behind you. Yes, you kindly begin. It's fine now. You may kindly speak.
Great. And are you able to see the presentation as well?
Yes, we can. Would you like to put it on full view?
Yeah, great. Perfect. Thanks so much. So I'll begin now. Like I was saying, and sorry, I think you didn't hear me, but I wanted to thank everyone, and also briefly take you in the coming 10 minutes on the way the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship is structured, particularly within that, how NSDC is located and the role that NSDC plays in this skills ecosystem in India, the impact that our organization has had over the last decade and more, with a particular focus on international collaborations, and what we do in school education, a couple of things on way forward, which in fact, I would request if Arun is also able to talk about that now or later. And to begin with, as you can see on this slide, the Ministry of Skill Development and Education consists of these three arms. One is NCVET, which is the regulator, the Directorate General of Training, which takes care of the long-term training. So we have, the system is divided into short-term training, which is training up to 3 months, and long-term training, which is beyond 6 months up to 1 year. So the Directorate General of Training looks after the long-term training, and NSDC takes care of short-term training. Like we was also talking about the sector skill councils that have been incubated by NSDC. There are around 35 sector skill councils that we have incubated, and we have also created this large ecosystem of private training companies by providing them with loan, equity, and grant. On the right side, that gives you a sense of our public-private character. So NSDC's 49% of the share capital is held by the public side, which is the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and 51% of the share capital is held by the private sector, which is associations such as ASSOCHAM, CII, FICCI, etc. The role of NSDC, as you can see, it's an expansive role that we play within the skills ecosystem, from development financing to implementation of very large government schemes, industry partnerships and CSR-led skilling, SSC governance, international collaborations, apprenticeship, digital skills and innovation, learning standards, market analytics, knowledge and advisory, and also technology and other communication and outreach activities. So, this is just our way of showing that NSDC as an organization touches the entire value chain of skilling, and also all support activities that are needed to get everything up and about. Sorry, I think my slides are not moving. Ruchika, can you just help me by telling me if you are able to see the next?
Still on the second. No, it's still on second slide. Roll up NSDC.
Okay. Sorry about that. I think I will just have to share again. Right. Great. So I'll quickly talk through some numbers here, which give you a sense of the impact that we have created over the years. So in terms of funding, which, like I said, we provide loans, grant, and equity to the tune of $265 million USD has been done to catalyze the creation of quality training institutes and value chain providers. There's a huge commitment also in terms of what we call here corporate social responsibility, which is a percentage of profits that private companies share for social responsibility activities. So $29 million has been committed for skill development towards NSDC. We have created a huge training capacity that comprises of 683 training providers, over 10,000 training centers, which also includes 738 model training centers. These are specialized training centers that are better equipped than the others. There is a huge training capacity of 67,422 per annum. So these are large numbers, and as you can appreciate, when it comes to India, the numbers are always large, but they also show that we've been able to create that sort of an impact, and with quality, we hope. And that's one side that we wish to strengthen as we engage with countries and systems such as Finland. Moving on to the delivery side, there's a huge number of candidates that have been trained. 50% of those have been provided with jobs, and the inclusion agenda is fairly high. As you can see, over 50% of the trainees are women, and there is also a huge focus on people with disability and other minority communities. We have undertaken certain impact studies, and I would be very happy to share that with you. These studies show that
the chance of employment for trained and certified candidates under STT, which is the short-term training that I was talking about, increases. There is by 2 times, there's a 15% increase in income and a 79% increase in confidence to navigate the labor market under the recognition of prior learning program. So Hannah also spoke about RPL. So very pleased to know that both countries have similar terminologies and similar sensibilities in terms of approaching VET and making it significant for people that it is supposed to impact. Moving on to some areas of international collaborations. As you can see, technical advisory services, knowledge exchange, and international workforce mobility are broadly some of the areas where we work in terms of international collaborations. So at present, we are developing a guide for the UNESCO Univoc Center. We are a UNESCO Univoc member in India, which is focusing on entrepreneurial learning for disadvantaged youth. Again, as soon as this guide is ready, we'll be happy to provide a copy. We are also working with the Ministry of Digital Economy and Entrepreneurship in Jordan on a World Bank funded project to incubate their National Skill Council for ICT. We have also worked with the Ministry of Higher Education in Maldives, which was again a World Bank funded project to develop a national skill development master plan for the Tibet Authority of Maldives. There are various other initiatives in terms of capacity building, such as the one that we are doing today, and the MOUs that we have with Edify and Omnia. And we hope that beyond capacity building, this actually translates into certain more concrete initiatives between the two countries. We also engage with the United Kingdom and countries such as Morocco. And there was a recent delegation that we hosted from the Kingdom of Lesotho as well. In terms of international organizations, we work with the International Organization for Migration. We also work on several projects with ILO. The UNESCO Univoc engagement I already spoke about, and with the World Economic Forum. NSDC had also conducted a global skill gap study to understand, like the ambassador spoke about earlier, there is this demographic dividend.
So sorry, there's been some kind of disruption. Probably there's a power failure, I think. Request all the audience to just be patient to join again.
Ruchika, I'm back. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you. We can see that.
Okay. Sorry about this. We have a panel on digital and we've been talking about digital and I've had 2 outages already. I hope that was the last. So I was talking about this this global skill gap study that we had conducted in 2019. This was to assess what opportunities are there across the globe for Indian workers to migrate. There's also the narrative of demographic dividend in India versus relatively aging population in many other parts of the world. So the whole idea was to see, how can we support the aging countries and at the same time provide opportunities to the Indian workforce. So this study threw up some interesting facts and figures, but broadly speaking, it told us that there is a huge opportunity and the global world needs to ensure that there are enough and more skilled and certified workers that are able to mobilize from parts of the world where there is a shortage to parts of the world where there is a surplus. And I believe that luckily in India we are in a position where there is a surplus. So we are very happy to take this agenda of mobility forward with countries that can make use of the skill sets of our workers.
Amit, I think it froze again.
Okay, let me try again, Ruchika. Just tell me if it moves. Is it better now?
Yeah, so go to the
Excellent.
previous slide.
Okay, so that was not the last. Very quickly moving on, this just gives you a snapshot of one of the systems that we have developed, which is the ISC network to strengthen the supply side. So like I was saying, we have this huge capacity which we spoke about earlier that we have created. We brought members who participate in skilling and training workers for international markets on a platform called the India International Skills Center Network. There are 500 training centers that are part of this network and are represented by 100 member organizations. They provide specialized services for ensuring that the people who have aspirations to migrate to other countries have the required, to begin with information. So counseling and guidance becomes hugely important. Second, we also want to make sure that they are able to pass the requisite assessment and certification requirements of the destination countries, and whatever incremental or bridge training is required to be provided for them to be able to make those assessments and clear those employer interviews. These centers prepare people for that, and a very significant aspect is orientation training. So there's a pre-departure orientation training that is provided to orient these people on culture, language, and other nuances on where to seek help, because it's not easy when you migrate. There are so many issues and grievances that you might have. So what can you do to protect yourself, and who can you reach is a training that is provided as part of our pre-departure orientation training program. So this is a very strong network that we have created to strengthen the workforce supply side. On the other hand, we are actively engaging with various governments and business organizations across countries to strengthen the demand side. So to essentially to understand where are the employers, where are the opportunities, and what is it that they need from us. So like, Ved also spoke about, and so did Ambassador Kumar, about Japan. We have this technical intern training program with Japan. There is a new initiative called the Specified Skilled Worker Program. So these deliberations happen at a government to government level, and then the private sector takes them forward. So I think it's like a perfect way of for all stakeholders to engage towards the common vision of ensuring that there is employment and opportunity provided to young people across the world. We are also engaging with Australia with a business partner there to send, there's a new pilot program that we are launching with Birdman Global Services. VetAssess is another agency. It's a renowned skill assessment agency. NSDC is also engaging with VetAssess for this purpose. We've had several active engagements with Gulf countries such as UAE. So one of the important initiatives that we have worked with them on is the India-UAE Skill Harmonization Framework, where with the Ministry of Human Resources and Democratization and the Abu Dhabi Quality and Conformity Council. So this is really significant, and this is something that we would like to pursue with other countries as well, where there is a benchmarking of qualifications, a technical benchmarking and harmonization of qualifications with a mutual recognition. So if somebody who is skilled and certified up to a certain level in a particular job role in India is recognized by the destination country. So this is a project that we have done with the UAE. We are also working on a similar skill verification program with this agency called Takamul, again in UAE. There are several other engagements with Germany, Croatia, Russia, and Canada. I'll also briefly, so moving on from the international agenda, very briefly touch upon school education, where we are supporting the Ministry of Human Resource Development's Education for All program that runs across 31 states and union territories in India. Here there are multiple entry and exit options are offered to students in the final stages, which is what we call class 9 and 10th, followed by another one in 11th and 12th. There are a few approved training partners who run these programs with us, and apprenticeship becomes a very significant component of basic training certified students who are able to undergo an apprenticeship program. In terms of way forward, I suppose, I will request if Arun is able to talk about that now or perhaps later, Ruchika. So I'll stop there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amit. We have some questions that have come from the audience, and I would like to take those questions and would direct it to respective speakers. So there's a question that from the audience that would like to address to the ambassadors, please. What are the possible areas of learning for India from Finnish VET ecosystem, and how can it be replicated in India? His Excellency, Mr. Kumar, if you're there. It's not there in the session. I would switch to the other question, which is for Ms. Potere. How can Indian companies collaborate with and learn from Edify?
Sorry, I had some problem with the connection. Could you please repeat the question?
Yes, sorry. So here's a question for you: that how can Indian companies collaborate with Edify, and what can they learn from Edify?
Okay, I think this question might be better steered to the Education Finland, which is more collaborating with the companies. But Indian Edify and the Vocational Education Training Department working directly with the Indian companies is not probably the best way to collaborate, because we collaborate rather at the level of NSDC. We have the memorandum of understanding, so I think it's better to collaborate, first at this framework, because we have the memorandum of understanding standing signed. So let's see, I think later on, what is the best way to collaborate, and whom would be collaborating, which organization would be the best to collaborate. But I think we can probably find connections and the right partners. That's where we can be helpful.
Okay, thank you so much. We have a question from Andre Vermenko, sorry. It's written that often Finnish educational products are considered expensive by the Indian educational institutions, and sometimes the infrastructure for VET training is not the same across the country. Is there any existing program or plans to implement any joint educational plans to co-create solutions meeting the National Education Policy 2020 by Education Ministries of India and Finland? Excellency, I request.
Yeah, I mean, I can try to attempt, to answer that question. We actually have been discussing on cooperation in education sector, including early childhood, K-12, and higher education. And this matter also came up for discussion during the virtual summit in March. Now, what has been agreed is to have a high-level dialogue on education. Unfortunately, the one which was scheduled in May had to be postponed because of COVID. We are trying to work on a dialogue, bringing the two stakeholders on both sides sometime in early November. And this actually will perhaps lay down the contours of how the cooperation is going to look like. And frankly, we have never had any discussion on the education sector on how the two countries can cooperate. Now, once we have both sides exchanging their best practices, what we can do, how does Finland fit into the national education policy which has been announced in India? What are the best practices which can be brought from Finland into India? How it can be nuanced in the Indian context? So these are the areas and subjects which will come up for discussion. And then we will have a much clearer roadmap on how both countries can cooperate.
Thank you, His Excellency. Before we move into the next session, I would like to take one last question, which is what sectors in Finland are more prominent in terms of skill gap? There's a similar question from another person in Skill Council for Mining sector, because he says that while the agenda for today's session is digital skills and health, but is there any kind of scope or opportunities for mining sector in Finland? Or vice versa? So would you like to take that question?
Well, I'm not so certain if there's anybody who would have this information now present.
Okay.
Present here. I know that there is a huge shortage of employees in welding sector. But, I think we would have to look at the statistics. We have the information, but I don't have the statistics here now. So we can definitely come back to this issue. Welding, I know, but it's also, I suppose it's the same challenge in India.
Thank you. So we'll take yes, sir.
Sorry, in fact, I read a report just a couple of days ago that at this point of time, the skill shortage, especially in terms of vocational education, they are in nursing, daycare, elderly care, and so in fact, these were flagged right at the top. In fact, there has been a lot of discussion going on in Finland, how to bridge the skill shortage and how to bridge that gap in terms of the employment opportunities in Finland. But as Hannah mentioned, and in fact, this is something which keeps on coming. I think they keep on updating this at regular intervals. I think the one before this was released sometime in January, February, earlier this year. And this next report got released another maybe 10 days ago. And they have listed down very clearly the skill shortage in Finland at this point of time.
Thank you so much, sir. I would request the audience to submit their questions. While it may not be appropriate to answer to all the questions right now, but we would try and address them at a later stage. So thank you, Ambassador, sir. I would now move to the next session, which is being hosted by Ms. Mervi Janssen. Ms. Mervi Janssen has extensive experience in both business and education, and she founded her first company in 1989 and has since then founded 3 companies where she holds prominent positions in marketing and education. She joined Omnia, which is a joint authority of education in the SPOO region in 2007 to run business and entrepreneurship training and mentoring programs. May I request Ms. Mervi Janssen to begin the session, please.
Thank you so much. May I have the slide with the panelists, please? It's a great pleasure to be moderating the panel on digital skills, creating a future-ready workforce. I have to say that there is pressure on digital skills for sure. According to the World Economic Forum, the pandemic has accelerated a dramatic pace of change in global jobs. If we look at the situation as it is, 85 million jobs will go, but the good news is that 97 million new jobs will emerge. And we're looking at areas like artificial intelligence, the green economy, and the so-called care economy, which was touched upon when talking about how Finland and India could collaborate. The pandemic also radically changed how and where we study and work. And I believe that if we look at the already existing and the emerging digital technologies, the face of learning has forever changed. So if we're looking at robotization, 3D printing, virtual and augmented solutions coupled with AI, these technologies will continue to change education as we know it. And I believe there will be radical changes in the future. Therefore, digital skills need to be at the forefront of our agenda. We have today with us 5 distinguished panelists, and we will look at 5 questions and hear their insights and cutting-edge views on how vocational education and training can not only keep up with the change, but also proactively be a partner to industry in shaping this change. And I'd like to start with the first question, which is, what are the top digital skills required of the future workforce? And I'd like to ask Ulla to please comment on this one.
Thank you very much. And my name is Ulla-Maria Koivula. I noticed that my name has been abbreviated a little bit on this slide, but thank you very much for the invitation to this. So question is, what are the top digital skills required from future workforce? If you ask the search engines the same question, the most common results are that you get are that you need coding skills, digital marketing, and social media. But in this answer, however, I would like to emphasize a more foundational level skills that impacts on all the levels and aspects of future work, which will happen increasingly on digital platforms and virtual teams. So the first point I want to address is that we would need to invest in upgrading or enhancing our basic digital communication and knowledge sharing skills, because emails or instant messages and video conferences will not be sufficient for efficient cross-disciplinary communication, something that we are seeing already today. So in this context, digital communication and knowledge sharing skill includes an assumption that every employee needs to be fluent in sharing their thoughts and observations and knowledge to any colleague at any time, and sometimes even at all times. And I would even go as far as to say that this kind of skill is really the foundation of a learning and adapting organization. If we go to back to the curriculum level, the emphasis on, so say, like digital literacy or new literacy is nothing new as such, and it can be already found in the national education programs both in India and Finland. What it says exactly is that students are expected to become fluent in interpreting and producing text in various forms, meaning not only written text, but also express themselves using other forms of media, such as audio and visual media content. But let's go back quickly to why this is so critical, important at future workplace, in today's workplace. First of all, it's critical because situations change quickly, unexpected things happen all the time, and opportunities and problems arise. And to be able to develop a fast adopting learning organization and job-ready employees, we need to continue investing in communication and knowledge sharing on digital platforms. And this means that all employees on all levels need to be trained to, for example, use their mobile devices and phones, tablets, different kinds of content creation tools for creating, first of all, rich descriptions of any given situation or opportunity, as well as audiovisual micro-learning opportunities from local environments that can be quickly shared with colleagues and experts across the globe. So in other words,
I'm sorry we're running out of time. So to keep with our panel time frame, I'm going to have to ask for a quick comment now from Vaishali. How do you see this from an Indian perspective?
Yeah, so thanks, and very, very interesting session since morning on the skilling. So as rightly said by Ulla, these are some of the life skills we need to look at while AI, cloud, and artificial intelligence, maybe AR, VR, these are the skills in demand. But what I feel is that digital collaboration is also one of the critical skills, because now more and more teams are working in remote manner. And while they can communicate with each other, at the same time, it's important that how do you collaborate to do the whiteboarding, creating some prototypes, some models, that is important. And the second skill is on awareness about the information and cybersecurity. Because if you look at the IT workforce, they are typically aware of it. But when we are talking about the workforce across the sectors, having the knowledge of basic knowledge of security is critical to protect not only the personal assets but even the organizational assets. So I think these two skills are important, and of course the agility and resilience. These are the life skills. Yeah.
That actually leads me to the second question. What impact has digitalization had on vocational education and training and the jobs we are training for? Vaishali, could you comment on that one?
Sure. So, see, all of us are experiencing the digital transformation, not only in IT sectors, but across all the sectors, like maybe retail, manufacturing, hospitality, especially with the pandemic, the healthcare sector. So, all sectors are going through the digital transformation, and with pandemic, the need and the speed both has become multifold for this transformation. And one of the key point is, are we having the right skilled workforce to enable this digital transformation? So it becomes important that while we are transforming the world, the learning ecosystem itself needs to be transformed. And that covers the transformation of vocational training and on-the-job skilling, and even the jobs are changing. So one of the major impact we see of digitalization is the democratization of skilling. Now the based in class content, the certifications, everything is available. There are no limitations of geographical boundaries. There are no limitations of language barriers. So the content is available. It's at the fingertips. So it's more like anytime, anywhere kind of a learning. And the AI-based algorithms, they are finding out where the gap is and how that gap should be fulfilled with the personalized training program. It's not that one fits for all, and we spoke that also in the morning sessions, that there is no more one fit for all. It is all personalized or contextual. And let me say that this is not only for IT, because when we talk about any vocational stream for that matter, the traditional jobs are changing. The way the traditional jobs we're doing, that is now people need to know the domain knowledge of that particular stream, plus how IT is going to enable that. So that's where the impact is. And for that, it's not only the learning provider, but the entire learning ecosystem has a major role to play. And when I say learning ecosystem, it is the academia, the institutions, the government organizations or NGOs to whom we heard this morning, the industry, the learners, and the technical experts. Everybody is coming together and making that impact, that how are we ready for the future? And as Ved said this morning, this is not the future, this has become today, it's the survival skill, what we are talking as. It's no more a future skill, it's a survival skill.
Sure.
So
sure.
that's
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So really, we are talking about changing ecosystems. I'd like to invite Mikko to share a comment on the Finnish perspective on the change and the jobs we are training for.
Okay, thank you, Mervi. And thank you for other panelists as well. The impact of digitalization for vocational education and training comes, or at least it should come, from the jobs that we are training for. When the working life is digitalization, the skills needed are changing. The vocational education and training should always be on the pulse of working life and give students the skills that the industries are seeking. We know very well that digitalization is one of the mega trends that shapes pretty much every job or occupation we have. And that's why the curriculums of vocational education and training need to take digitalization into account. Another point for the digitalization is the impact it has for the quality of teaching and learning. Well-designed digital teaching has lots of potential to increase the quality. Within the Finnish perspective, I must say that I'm really satisfied that the Finnish vocational education and training system have been really successful with digitalization.
If I may add, maybe we can talk a little bit about the gap. How can we ensure that there isn't a widening gap between the requirements for workforce and the capacity of vocational education and training? I mean, that is, I think, something that we hold at heart in Finland and India, that we're teaching what we are supposed to be teaching. But how can we ensure this?
Well, this is a really difficult question. I'm not sure if there is a way to really ensure it, but there's of course a lot that we can do to avoid it. I think the key for avoiding the widening gap is deepening cooperation between education providers and employers. Education providers or institutions of vocational education, as well as national agencies responsible for curriculum development, should be aware of the needs of working life. Also, working life should know what they can expect from the vocational education and training. We shouldn't have any unrealistic expectations what the vocational education can do. And that requires continuous discussion between the stakeholders, between the employers, between the education providers, and between the national agencies as well. And we need well-planned processes for fostering that discussion. And another thing is that different forms of apprenticeships are another great tool for matching requirements of workforce and the capacity of vocational education and training. When the students learn in genuine working environment, the requirements of the profession will be clearer, and I'm sure that that affects for the motivation to learn as well. And that's also like avoiding to way to avoid the widening gap as well. And then the last thing I would like to say, one important thing is to remember is that the education system should always be seen as a whole. I'm from the Confederation of Finnish Industries, and we have been very worried for the weakening learning outcomes of Finnish comprehensive school pupils. So if there are problems with basic skills when the students are entering the vocational education, it is very hard to gain the competencies needed during the VET studies. And we can be pretty sure that the requirements for workshop will rise in the future. So it's not weakening. So that is why it's really crucial to make sure that the whole education system works as it's supposed.
Thank you, Mikko. I'd like to invite Kirti to comment on this question as well. How can we ensure that there isn't a widening gap between the requirements and vocational education and training?
So I'll absolutely echo what Mikko said, that it's a very difficult question and we can only try. And it has to be done across the board. Vaishali also mentioned getting all the players into the conversation. The base we create in the K-12 system has an impact on what happens in the vocational system, has an impact on what happens in the academic system, and that's the net output that goes to the industry. So fixing it at one place is difficult. It's an injection that we give to solve a small problem, but it doesn't solve the fundamental problem. So we can only try, and I think you mentioned the education policies that are there in Finland and also in India now. We just launched our new education policy. And there is the very, very strong intent to make that cohesiveness come through, whether it is including vocational training in schools and then taking it through to higher education as well, including vocational training in higher education and giving credits for that. The other big piece, of course, is the on-the-job, the hands-on, the practice, which is brought in by internships, apprenticeships, and that system, which definitely is being strengthened, but it's key. So
yeah, I was going to actually ask, what about industry partnerships? Because I believe that industry does have a strong role here. So how can the industry partnerships ensure this readiness?
So industry actually has a, it's a very important role to play because eventually industry is the employer. And so there's a massive contribution in what should be taught and what are the skills and what is going to be valued. So if I were to say that, we split the role of industry into maybe two buckets, or what can they do for employees that are already in organizations, because there is a whole reskilling and upskilling that's going on there when we talk about digital readiness. And then there's also what happens with people who are coming out of either the vocational training system or the higher education system. And in India, I think we see a lot of it coming out of the higher education system because there is just so much of it. There are just so many people, and we just have to find ways to build employability. And so for the first bucket, which is the upskilling industry, if I were to just put on the India lens, I would say they're working at a feverish pitch on how to reskill, and it's making it to the press to say how many of our employees have we reskilled, because this is business. Business opportunities will not come to India if we do not assure our clients that we're on the job and we're making it happen. And that's where it's, we even at NASCOM, we built a platform, a skilling platform that we call Future Skills, that was at the behest of the industry. We represent the IT industry with the IT Industry Association, and so they said that this is required. So we actually created a platform where we could have all the players, whether it's government, academia, industry, coming together. And I also believe that there is a need for a common language of skilling, which actually takes me to my next point about the role industry plays in the second bucket, which is the freshers. Freshers need to know, we need to have the same language of degrees or skills which the industry is using in their job descriptions. And very often we find that they don't talk to each other. It's interesting, but maybe that's a very low-hanging fruit we can solve for closing the gap, because if learners know that this is what industry wants, they can just go and search for it and find it. And that's a very easy one to fix, but somehow seems to be very difficult. But industry, at least, again, I'm speaking from the India examples. We have industry participating in career counseling. What are these jobs? What can you do with these jobs? We have industry participating in content, curriculum design, working with board of studies of various universities. We have industries doing CSR, the corporate social responsibility investment in polytechnics or vocational training institutes, looking at adjacent skill sets. And all of this, evolving with the pandemic, because we brought about this idea of virtual internships, because we said you can't go to work, but hey, work is happening remote. So why do internships have to be on site? So we had industry coming up with the program on 20,000 internships on cybersecurity or 50,000 internships on artificial intelligence. Now, these are big numbers, and they're very impactful and very powerful to send the message.
That sounds very, very modern to look at virtual apprenticeships. I'm going to want to ask Ville to comment on the Finnish point of view for industry partnerships. What's been happening here? How do you see the role of industry growing, and especially in continuous learning?
Yeah, I think like there's a lot of
We're losing Ville, it seems. Let's see if we can get Ville back soon. In the meantime, we'll go to the next question, which is actually our last question. And that is, how can we expect skills development to change in the future? Because nothing is constant here. So we all see that it's about an ecosystem supporting change and ensuring in both countries that we are ready for the change, and education is proactively a part of this change. Ulla, would you like to comment on that? How do you see the future?
Well, I think like one of the things that's clear is that we have to, if we want to guarantee accessibility to vocational education and higher quality, we have to accept the idea that maybe even most of the vocational education will happen in the cloud. And that's a very radical thought to accept, first of all. And what And I think like something that Ville you know would be emphasizing and probably will join the discussion is that this so our kind of like current way of thinking that practical vocational education has to happen in a dedicated place is already very obsolete. And
Sure.
these and then back to your question kind of like of the industry partnerships is that these micro learning opportunities will arise in the form of short certificates, industry developed short certificates. And then we have a challenge with the national programs that what will be the new criteria and what will be the international shared standards for cloud-based vocational education. And this is a long-term, multi-year collaboration project. So I would say like those are some of the critical questions, and I'm kind of like at least, you know, wondering myself that to what extent can we have international standards and to what extent we just rely on local, these like micro-learning, industry-driven learning opportunities.
I think that's a very interesting question. Will we have international badges or credentials that are valid anywhere and everywhere? We have Ville back. So Ville, would you like to comment on that? I mean, you can basically, if you look at and reflect on the industry partnerships and what we can expect for the future, how all this will change, what's your vision?
I think kind of like at least on my thinking, this change is something that is a word that we definitely should use here. So I think kind of like these skills are of course something that needs to be shared globally. So therefore, like I see the opportunities to create something like a more unanimous also on the global front. As kind of like mentioned here as well, kind of like the points on continuous learning and the basics of it should kind of like be present already in the first steps of education, meaning for example the digital communication skills mentioned in this panel as well. So that's something that you lay in the basics already. But I think on the continuous part of things and the change in skills development is pretty much that you need to constantly learn, of course, and to do that, the education provided and the education designed must kind of like be from the perspective of the learner as well. So meaning that as mentioned here as well, the pathways and needs for the employers, for example, needs to be quite concrete. So for me, at least, kind of like I'm advocating that all of the education should always kind of like be presented to someone to have the user in the center, so the learner in the center of everything, and that kind of like is needed because we are still kind of like we need to compete with other like pastime leisures, for example, watching Netflix or something like that. So we need to turn that into the possibility of learning, and for that reason it should be bite-sized. It should be kind of like something that is easy to take while you are like commuting to work and so forth.
Sure. Thank you for these views. I think that even during this short time, we've painted a very interesting picture for the future. So if we're looking at basically how to upskill workforce, it's upskilling anywhere and everywhere. It is upskilling on many levels and through different forms of digital feeds. And basically also looking at the let's say, ambitious goal of setting international standards, having badges, credentials, etc., that truly would be valid anywhere and everywhere. So I'd like to thank our panelists for their valuable insights on digital skills, creating a future-ready workforce. It's not an easy task, but listening to all of you, we're definitely up for the challenge. And I hope we can build partnerships and collaboration between Finland and India to really proactively create some of these solutions we've been talking about, because they would definitely benefit mobility, both of the workforce in both countries. And I believe we would have a great international impact with the spillover effect globally. So thank you for this session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
you.
Thank you, Ms. Parvi Jansen and the esteemed panel for reflecting on digital skills required for the future workforce. We all agree that digital skills have become vital in a world of increasing adaptability in learning. Thank you. Now we move to the next session, which is on the health and wellness and scope and opportunities post-COVID. The session is hosted by Dr. Avneet Kaur. I request Avneet to take the stage, please. Avneet, you have a speaker problem again.
You should be able to hear me.
Now I can.
Okay, you can. Great. All right. So I'll start. Thank you so much. Health and wellness is the second theme that we have chosen for this discussion. We know that both these aspects have transformed dramatically due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Loss of lives has been coupled with loss of livelihoods, both having a debilitating effect on individuals and the healthcare industry. COVID-19 has also redefined the sector's capacities and demands. As per McKinsey report on COVID-19 facts and insights, the demand for healthcare products and services has increased manifold in the last 2 years globally. The sector has also witnessed a strong need for reskilling in healthcare analytics, insurance, digital marketing, and other emerging developments. Post the pandemic, future trends also reveal a renewed approach towards health and wellness. And to specifically unpack this perspective and provide guidance on the future of health and wellness, we are today joined by an esteemed panel that consists of Dr. Rao, Ms. Anna Sarpio, Ms. Monica Behel, and Ms. Susanna Sari. Dr. Rao is the Chief Executive Officer at Apollo MedSkills Limited. He brings with him over 16 years of experience in the healthcare industry. And before joining Apollo, Dr. Rao worked for leading healthcare organizations like Apollo Hospitals, Siemens Healthcare, GE Healthcare, and Apollo Health Street, and he executed multiple complex global projects for them. He specializes in process improvement, project delivery, project and program management, and content development, and particularly drives the future of healthcare skilling and e-learning industry. His leadership style is results-driven, collaborative, team-oriented, and based on strong internal and external partnerships. Dr. Rao is a postgrad in medicine and had continuing education in emergency medicine and diabetes. He also has been trained in executive management from the Indian School of Business in Hyderabad and has co-authored books on hospital management and health informatics. So welcome, Dr. Rao, and thanks for joining us today. We also have today with us Ms. Anna Sarpio, who works as a counselor of education in Finnish National Agency for Education, Edify. She focuses on vocational education and training. Her work task consists of developing vocational qualifications, especially in sports and wellness sector, and in improving students' well-being in national as well as in participating in different international projects. Ms. Sarpio's background is in sports and physiotherapy. She has worked earlier in different tasks concerning health prevention and rehabilitation, both very significant aspects. Before starting at Edify, she worked as a teacher in wellness and ergonomy in vocational special education. And during the course of the pandemic, she has participated in drawing up guidelines for vocational education providers to work safely and to support students' well-being in states of emergency. So welcome, Ms. Sarpio. Look forward to your contribution to this session. We also have Ms. Monica Behel, who is the Chief Executive Officer, Beauty and Wellness Sector Skill Council. She's a service professional with more than 25 years of experience in the field of health, beauty, wellness, dermatology, and education. She's known for her leadership roles involving strategic planning and execution and organization building. Prior to this role, Ms. Monica worked with VLCC as a Senior Vice President for Southeast Asia. She holds a master's degree in Community Resource Management and Extension from Delhi University, and over the years has worked extensively across India, Southeast Asia, and the Gulf region to establish and operate various brands. So welcome, Monica. Look forward to your perspective on this. And finally, we have Ms. Susanna Sari, who is a senior lecturer and head of PIDA, the Training Center, Turku University of Applied Sciences, and is a co-author of Enhancing the Competitiveness of a Wellness Tourism Destination by Coordinating the Multiple Actor Collaboration, which was published in 2017. She is also a co-author of How to Develop a Competitive Health and Wellbeing Destination, published in 2014, and holds a master's in social sciences in leisure and recreation studies, and is a doctoral candidate at the University of Lapland. Susanna has been the project coordinator for 2 special projects financed by EU dealing with issues on health and wellness tourism destination development and spa management. So I suppose, we have a great list of panelists here, and I will now begin the session. If I may, Dr. Rao, begin by asking you, when we speak of health and wellness, what does that include and how are the trends changing?
Thank you. Thanks, Avneet, for your kind introduction. And I think when you speak about health and wellness, so I'm not putting in a very definition perspective, but there are 3 aspects. When I say prevention aspect, it is prevention of disease. There has been a very limited focus on this particular area. Till today, I would say that the prevention of disease has always taken a backseat. The second is the curative services, which is predominantly the hospital-based, clinic-based services, where a disease is cured in a hospital setting. And the third is a rehabilitative service, which is a post-hospital discharge service. And this also is in a very nascent phase, particularly in India. I think there's a need for improving the rehabilitative services. Currently, it is focused on post-orthopedic or post-joint replacement surgery rehabilitation or post-stroke rehabilitation. But I think there are other areas of rehabilitation which needs to get improved. So these are the 3 areas of health, if we bisect that in terms of the layers. And there is another approach on wellness which is emerging now, which I think I believe there are tremendous collaboration opportunities between India and Finland in this area, which is integrated medicine. Earlier, there was only one approach towards treatment of disease, and that approach was predominantly curative. And when I say integrated medicine, it is combining allopathy with other areas of medicines like Ayush, Ayurveda, Yoga, Unani, Siddha, and homeopathy. And the research studies show that there is a tremendous improvement in the overall health of an individual in integrated medicine. I'll just give an example of a person suffering from, say, coronary artery bypass graft, someone suffering from a heart disease. So on the preventive side, yoga has shown to be very beneficial in prevention of that, yoga and exercise. And Ayurvedic treatments are also shown some improvement in reducing the cholesterol levels in an individual. On the curative side, obviously, there is a bypass graft or stenting done if an individual suffers. But again, on the rehabilitative side, the alternate medical systems have shown improvement in an individual. And similar trends are seen in gynecology and obstetrics, seen in other areas of medicine as well. So with these initial thoughts on health and wellness and the new trends, I will actually pass it on to you, Avneet. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Rao. So, Anna, if I may move to you and ask you in terms of wellness and vocational education, how has the perspective changed post-COVID-19 and what should we expect going forward?
Thank you. Well, firstly, as it was already mentioned earlier, the need of healthcare professional and especially nursing has increased already before the pandemic in Finland, and therefore we also need to educate professionals more. One thing in this profession is probably because it's not seen as attractive, because it's quite demanding work and the payroll isn't probably in relation to that as well as it could be. And the COVID, of course, has brought its own difficulties in nursing profession as well. Then speaking of other current trends in the area of wellness especially, one of the biggest trends in Finland, as of course everywhere in the world, I suppose, has been well-being technology for years now. And even before the pandemic, it was also seen that all sorts of services that are brought home, whether it is digitally or physically, they started to become more popular. And this, of course, includes all health, wellness, and sports services. Also, all sorts of digital health and wellness utilities have become even more popular during this time. In vocational education and training, we do have a module in wellness technology already in national qualification requirements, but I think this will need even more attention in the future. Luckily, we do have education providers in Finland who are proactive, and they have already reacted to this, and they have this kind of competencies in their own supply. Another big trend, if I could say so, is a popularity in wellness and healthcare sector is emerging sports and wellness together with more traditional healthcare. And again, especially during pandemic, all sorts of sports that could be practiced in nature or outside in the forests, they have become extremely popular. I actually live close to a very popular forest fitness trail, which is a ski track during winter, and I can tell you that it has been crowded all the time, both in winter and summertime. And this, of course, if we look at vocational qualifications, they are already possible to study both nature sports instructors and choosing studies that combine healthcare and sports or wellness competencies. One more emerging topic, I would say, is emotional and mental health. It's become into everyone's knowledge during pandemic time. And in relation to this, I believe that the increase also in nature sports has a lot to do with the mental health and not just physical. Also exhaustion, burnout, they are unfortunately becoming quite common during this pandemic time. But a positive side in this, it has also led to the fact that it is easier to talk about these problems now than it was before. And I would imagine this change into more open culture would help also students in recognizing their own limits and also asking for help when it's needed.
Great, thank you. Thanks for that. Susanna, if you could talk to us about wellness and tourism. We know that these two things are getting combined and there's huge opportunity. If you could throw some perspective on that.
Thank you very much for inviting me over. I hope you can hear my voice well. Like said earlier, I come from the applied science university sector, so from the one step higher from the vocational level, and but we are very much into these trends as well. And as I present tourism sector, I first of all would like to explain a little bit what this health tourism is all about. It's basically an umbrella term for wellness tourism and medical tourism. And it covers all types of tourism where the primary motivation is contribution to physical, mental, and or spiritual health through wellness-based activities that then again raise the capacity of individuals to satisfy their needs and to function, to make them function better. That's basically health tourism as an umbrella. But underneath, you have two different types. You have medical tourism, which is the type of tourism activity which basically involves a trip outside your own usual environment. It could be a domestic trip here in Finland or inside India, or it could be an international trip overseas or to a nearby country. Where you basically use evidence-based medical healing resources and services. This is reactive type of a trip where you really seek help. Wellness tourism is basically a type of tourism activity which then aims to improve and balance all of your main domains of life, which means your physical, mental, emotional, occupational, intellectual, and spiritual health. And there the primary motivation is really to engage in these preventive activities, a proactive lifestyle, which then could be, for example, fitness, sports, healthy eating, relaxation, pampering, health or healing treatments. So these are basically the types that we are discussing here. And it's quite interesting that since tourism has been the biggest growing industry pre-COVID-19, actually this niche of wellness tourism was actually growing even more than the tourism in overall. So wellness tourism was something that many destinations were really looking at, because the growth rate and also the expenditure of the people who come to use money into these places is quite significant. And I think I was also asked to sort of put some Finnish perspective into this health tourism aspect. Of course, first of all, Business Finland here in Finland promotes health tourism as an area where our know-how and high quality services can make a difference. We already have seen many cases here where even international sports stars like David Beckham, he flew over here to Turku to have his foot fixed and so on. Of course, we have a product that everybody in the world knows, and that is the Finnish Sauna, which is already thousands of years of cultural tradition. And if you want to Google sauna from Finland, you will learn more about it. And I would like to emphasize, by the way, that since this is the only word that our language, the Finnish language, has given to the global community, really it should be pronounced sauna rather than sauna, which even most Finnish people say when they start speaking English. They all of a sudden, there's no sauna, there's a sauna, but that is not correct. So sauna for us is very, very important. It's a physical activity, but it's a lot to do with your mental health, well-being as well, your mental health and silence and relaxation. And of course, then we have this element that Anna was already referring to, our green and lush nature, our woodland. Finland is the biggest or has the biggest remaining wilderness in Europe still. So we have plenty of untouched land here. We also have the cleanest air in the world as well as the cleanest water. So these are elements that of course are very much into this context. So it's very typical that the Finnish people really go out to the nature to relax. They enjoy swimming in the nature waters. We have thousands of lakes, we have rivers, we have the Baltic Sea. So this swimming and sauna combination, of course, even dipping into the ice cold frozen lake or a sea is something that we do, or rolling into the snow also. Many Finnish people have second homes in the country, so this is where we go and sort of unwind and recharge our batteries during the weekends and on the holiday sites. So Finnish people have, Finland has been found by the international tourists, and I think that this post-COVID-19 will still make it even a bigger thing for us, because we have everything that this type of wellness tourism activities are all about: the nature, the clean air, and so on. And of course, India here has a lot to offer as well. So I'm looking at what was already mentioned by earlier speakers: yoga, all these spiritual retreats, ashrams, Ayurveda, all of this is also really to do, as well as, of course, the extremely high medical knowledge that India has, and as a medical tourism destination is already one of the biggest in the world. I think this is my part. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Susanna. Unfortunately, you really made me imagine the forests and the lakes, and unfortunately, there's no way of importing and exporting those. But perhaps we could get the skill sets, and climate is such a big agenda, as the ambassador mentioned earlier. So really looking forward to knowing more about, from a skills perspective, how can there be capacity building and knowledge exchange that in a way that we are able to appreciate and promote these aspects as well. So thanks for that. Moving on, Monica, if you are able to tell us how wellness has become, from your perspective, part of the mainstream discussion amid and post the pandemic.
Thank you, Avneet, and a very warm welcome to each one of you. A warm good afternoon to Indian our participants, and a good and a happy morning to our Finnish participants. It was really nice hearing all my co-speakers and co-panelists, Dr. Rao, Anna, and Susanna, and hearing what all that the pronunciation of sauna is the right one and not the sauna. We'll keep that in mind, and we'll make sure that the same thing is done even in India. Coming back to the question on this, wellness is, as Dr. Rao also mentioned, it's just not an art of practicing healthy habits on one basis or on tourism basis, but an art where we practice these healthy habits on a daily basis to attain better mental, emotional, and physical health outcomes, so that instead of just surviving, we all are thriving. And Dr. Rao also mentioned the definition of health as per WHO, which says it's a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not just the merely absence of a disease. So then this definition, let me share with all our listeners and the viewers, is that has not been coined post-pandemic. It has been there in the definition set of WHO since the time immemorial. So it has been very important that wellness and health will go hand in hand. But yes, we were more in our day-to-day activities, in our day-to-day life, we were more concerned with the curative health rather than the preventive side of the wellness, so that we do not need the curative side. Pandemic was a wake-up call for all of us to bring forth the discussion on being well in this ever-changing environment, and how it is important to gain immunity from the external factors. For example, a virus like a COVID or a coronavirus has made all of us halt in our process of driving forward and take a relook on what we are doing and why we are doing this. The key areas of our lifestyles, which now form a dimension of an overall wellness, which have been covered by my panelists, my co-panelists earlier also, is social connectedness. Anna talked about it. It's very, very important that we are socially connected to our friends and to our family. The love and the harmony we bring together is a very core component of wellness. Nutrition, the food that you eat, how fresh, how good, how organic, and how free from pesticides and insecticide that food is, and the process of cooking. India has a heritage of getting the kind of recipes which involve not just the superfoods like ghee and the nuts, but also the method of cooking, which is slow cooking, intermittent fasting, which has been a part and parcel of Indian life. We had been following the concept of fasting once in a week, which has now come back to all of us in the form of an intermittent fasting, and we all are taking it as the new thing go ahead, is very, very important. Susanna just mentioned about yoga. Susanna, the way you have sauna as a heritage from Finland, India has the culture and heritage of yoga. And here our Prime Minister, hats off to him, Shri Modi ji has made International Day of Yoga, 21st of June, not just a day to celebrate the importance of yoga, but for us, for each one of us, to imbibe yoga as a way of life, and not just to do yoga when you're on a retreat, Susanna, on your tourism retreat, but to make yoga, because yoga in itself is not just a concept of doing some asanas, it's to connect with your own self. Yoga and meditation go hand in hand. And in India, this is our heritage. This is our culture. We've been taught this, and I think we can, with Finland government, we can bring this forth in a very big manner. Meditation will help you connect and will help you cut off the noise which is there outside, which nowadays is the concept of mindfulness, which says that you be connected and whatever you're doing, be there in that moment, be live in that moment. And this is what yoga and meditation has been teaching us. A very important point that we all have been missing in today's conversation is that to be well, it's very important to have a good and a sound sleep. The number of hours of sleep can vary from 5 to 8 hours depending on the age group that we belong to and what our body needs. So it's very, very important. A concept of wellness is incomplete till the time we do not add the component of sleep in it. Each of this impact of both physical and mental health. Being well will make you healthy also. And by choosing simple and healthy habits on a daily basis, will move us away from stress. Anna also touched on the impact of stress that stress has on our well-being and the impact of having positive social interactions, specifically for younger generation and the students for both the nation, to get an optimally well nation and a healthy nation is very, very important. Neet, with this, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you so much, Monica, for that perspective and for taking the discussion very nice, seamlessly forward from where we left it. We have just a couple of minutes left, and I would really like to focus, after having understood from each of you what health and wellness means. Dr. Rao, if you could tell us how can we collaborate from a vocational education and training or a skills development perspective. How can India and Finland work towards the development of standards and systems and processes in a way that makes this collaboration possible? So what are those key things that we should be able to consider?
Thanks, Avneet. I think post-COVID, one of the biggest lessons that the world has learned is making the human resources cross-deployable across the world. So if you see, most of the medical education is regulated. Even the allied health and nursing education is very regulated to each country. So if you see the current trend, about 28% of the global healthcare resources are from Asia, 28%, which is a very large number. So Asia has been one of the largest supplier of healthcare resources, and India has got 22% of that 28% of global healthcare workforce share. So which is a very large number. And owing to this, I think with Finland, I think if we can adopt some of the best practices, adopt some of their occupational standards, and ensure that we are on par or we have equitable standards, then I think we can train resources in India and possibly place them. And which are the areas, particularly when it comes to health and wellness at the vocational skill levels, I think a large demand is there for phlebotomy technicians. For diabetes educators in India, possibly we can learn that from Finland. And I think especially the birthing techniques, Suzanne has mentioned about sauna. So possibly I think sauna technician is something we may need in obstetrics. Today it's being done by nurses, but I think there's an upskilling need there. I'm sure we can identify some of the complementary strengths between the countries in the healthcare space and look at scaling up on each side. And India has the power of human resources, being the large populous country. So I think we should complement each other's strength and move forward. Thanks, Amrit. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. So unfortunately, we'll have to end there, but health and wellness is a concept that, as we can see, both countries are passionate about, and both countries have their niche in this area. So there is huge scope and opportunity for knowledge exchange. And I suppose there's a lot of work left for us to do now here at NSDC and with our counterparts, Edify, Omnia, and others in Finland, to take the technical steps that are required to be taken to make this possible. So thank you so much, Dr. Rao, Susanna, Anna, and Monica. And over to you, Ruchika. Thank you.
Okay, and this team panel for sharing perspective on scope and opportunities in health and wellness sector. Audience, would like to inform you that we're in the last leg of our webinar on India Meets Finland series. And I would like to now invite our next panelist for a fireside chat, Mr. Arun Kumar Pillai, Chief Strategy Officer, National Skill Development Corporation, and Mr. Samu Saitzala, Director of the Department of Impact and Coordination of International Affairs. Over to you, Arun.
Sure. Thanks, Ruchika. So we come to the end of this, the last session. It's been 2 engrossing hours in the sense the 2 ambassadors set the context for us, and then the institutional heads, both from NSDC, Edify, Omni, etc., they spoke about the respective institutions and the systems. And finally, we had the industry speak with both the healthcare and healthcare wellness and the digital skills. The leaders in this industry speaking about their own sectors and the skill shortages. Samu and me, of course, are now being left with this very simple task of actually summarizing it. So it is actually, we have sat through this session very diligently. We have heard every one of your comments and opinions, views. What you hear from us is nothing original. We just have put it together and in what we call as future areas of collaboration. Just to structure the discussion, I thought that I suggest that we could speak along these lines. First is, what are the opportunities for collaboration? In the sense we have had this discussion, what is emerging as the opportunities for collaboration? Second, we could say, how do we structure this opportunity? When the opportunity looks good, but then it's question, the challenge is how do we structure it such a way that we are able to address it and able to make it beneficial for both countries. And I think lastly, we could also speak broadly about the contours of a work plan. I'm not talking about a detailed plan, but a contours of a work plan. So it gives kind of a way forward for the whole discussion under the India-Finland, Finland meets India series. I'll take the first shot in terms of the opportunities. And I will ask Samu to also to join in once I finish. First of all, I see it across 3 broad areas. First is the sectors. Right now, we spoke about 2 sectors, healthcare, wellness, and the digital piece. And it is very, even during the course of discussion, it's very evident that these are sectors which require the next level of analysis to understand where are the opportunities in terms of the speakers broadly spoke about them, but we need to delve deeper to arrive at which are the areas of which are the jobs of opportunities or sector or the areas within this sector's opportunity. And this we need to look at from 2 perspectives. One is skilling for Finnish companies in India. In the sense we have, as the ambassador spoke, we have close to more than 100 companies in India. Clearly, these companies need skilled manpower. How is it that we as Indian skill providers, with the support of the Finnish skill providers, can help address some of the skill challenges these companies face within themselves and in their value chains? Similarly, many skillish we believe many Finnish companies look forward to investing in India. So where is it possible whether we could address some of those skills these companies, when they would come to invest in India, they could have the skills they required for them to actually to ease their investments and setting up their businesses here. So that's from a perspective of skilling in India for Finnish companies. The other, of course, is again the ambassadors and even the VT educators spoke about the skills shortage in Finland, and which is about sectors like healthcare again. So how do we again work? How do we identify which are the areas within the Finnish economy where there is shortage and which an Indian skilled workforce could support it? So that's the first broad opportunity, identifying the sectors of focus for us. The second area, which I think is in terms of opportunity, is for us to collaborate in the VET system itself. So it's clear that the Finnish system has got, it's got a lot of so many positive and promising kind of features, models, and we at We in India, we look forward to sharing of some of your best practices, knowledges, especially on the few of the things which were spoken today. One was about the apprenticeships, the work-based learning models you have. Second was about the skills forecasting you are doing in terms of identifying which are the skills for the future. Lastly, I also noted that you use skills competition in a very effective way in linking it to your own national VET systems. So we in India are trying to get that going. So we need to identify which are the areas of collaboration when it comes to within the VET system we can collaborate. This includes trainers, curriculum, and things like that. So a whole range of enabling pieces in the VET system. And the third broad area collaboration, what comes to me is the horizontal themes, the themes that run across. Like again, the ambassador spoke about gender. We also have a gender equality, equity issue in India when it comes to female labor workforce participation, things like that. Again, it's about sharing our models, what works, what worked, and what we could actually look at. Similarly, climate change, entrepreneurship, and one of the speakers spoke about use of data for many of use of data to actually to drive the efficiency of the VET system. So broadly, I feel these are the areas of collaboration. The sectors, areas within VET, and some of the horizontal themes. I'll call on Samu to actually to state from his side what he thinks could be the areas of collaboration.
Thank you, Arun Kumar. I welcome you all to my kitchen, my living room, and my office for the past 2 years. We here in Finland, we've been working almost for 2 years now from home because of the pandemic. So welcome to my office. It's been a really interesting discussion we have had so far, and I couldn't agree more with Arun Kumar about the themes and the sectors that we should cooperate. I think that the memorandum of understanding that we have signed before knowing anything about the pandemic couldn't be more accurate at the moment. We are speaking about digitalization and health. Are there any other more up-to-date or up-to-time sectors and themes that we could discuss at the moment? How can we solve the training, vocational training, without speaking about the digital opportunities for the training itself and as a content of the training, vocational training as well? Not to speak about the importance of health and the importance of the health for the future. I think the MOU gives us a good basis to enlarge the cooperation, but I would say that before we go enlarging the cooperation, we should deepen the cooperation, so that we should find the ways where we can, how can we in concrete terms cooperate in the sectors that we have chosen to be the main ones. But I would like to take one more topic on a discussion here, and it's the teacher training for vocational education. And there is definitely something we could share between you and between our countries. I think that the model that we have adopted here, giving the specific role for the universities of applied sciences in teacher training for vocational education, could be something that could be more closely looked at in this cooperation. And I think the good cooperation is exchanging of ideas and learning from each other. I don't believe in a model where we are just where the cooperation would be one-way cooperation. So I think that we can learn a lot from you also in how you prepare your teachers for vocational education. And there I would take the social role of the communities and the social role of the communities of learners and teachers. I feel that sometimes we still have too individualistic model here in Finland, and maybe this is something that we could definitely learn from a country which has the biggest number of people in the world, how to cooperate with people and so on. So these are some of the ideas that I have in mind. Alkumar, what do you think about the teacher training? Do you see it as a possible field of cooperation, and how should we go about it? How can we make this collaboration concrete?
Sure. You have very rightly pointed out the Achilles heel in our system is the fact that we do not have a large pool of quality teachers and trainers. While we may have the classrooms, we may have the curriculum, the content and everything, I think many of the biggest challenge we face is that the pool is quite small, and whatever we have also there's sufficient work to, in terms of quality to be done within the pool also. Having said that, I think the opportunity lies in marrying digital technology with and such a way that it helps the teacher rather than replaces the teacher. Because we are seeing many models emerging in the country where, we are looking at many digital models which are directly talking to the student and trying to address the problem. But I think it is only compounding the problem in terms of learning outcomes. I don't think we are achieving the learning outcomes through a purely digital model, especially in vocational training, I mean. So whenever we look at a teacher training model, I think a new teacher training model, which we would be happy, in fact, we would be glad to work with you, is where we actually marry this digital technologies tools, the teacher's ability to train and create a kind of a new age digital teacher, in the teacher in the sense, physical sense, and who is able to actually motivate students to pick up this trade, pick up the skill, etc., rather than we trying to make skill aspirational from outside. We're trying to make it look aspirational through various promotions, etc. But if the teacher in the classroom is able to convey this, this would actually make a world of a difference. So I'm very much with you on this. So if Finland has been able to make this kind of bring out the best of a teacher, we will be glad to work with you on these models.
Yes, I know that some of the participants here in this seminar are also coming from the universities of applied sciences that have these teacher training schools attached to them or as part of their activities, and maybe they can share something. And I noticed from the chat that there is Turku University of Applied Sciences sharing some of the strategic ideas for the pedagogy there. I truly agree with you that we need to combine digitalization and teacher training, definitely. I think that this past or the pandemic time has meant a huge frog leap for the learning of teachers, how they're using digitalization in their teaching. But what I'm a little bit more worried about, if the universities and universities of applied sciences have adapted these new ideas in their training of teachers, and this is something where we should cooperate with them. And I know I'm a little bit provoking, so maybe we will get some feedback from the representatives of universities on this. But how can we try to work together to use the best practices in teacher training when it comes to digitalization? Definitely. And of course, if we think of our two main themes, health and digitalization, they are overlapping as well. How digitalization can be used in wellness, health, being, and what could be the roles there for us to improve for the future. Maybe Aruma, you can have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think many of the speakers did mention this during the course of their discussions. I think we went through the phase in this Corona phase where some of them did speak about the fact that the marrying this digital technologies was something which was so key to many of the, the sense addressing, at least keeping the problem under some kind of control. People, we use various forms of digital tools to actually to reach out, to train. In fact, in India, we're running now a COVID Warriors program. We're running a program on protocols for immunization, everything using digital platform. It's like, otherwise it not have been possible. So we now have close to, I mean, the first batches, few batches are on, and we find that the learning is equally effective. When we do our MEL around that, when we do the monitoring, we realize it's equally effective. So we never thought of this earlier, but now the pandemic did make us think, and I don't think we will go back, in the sense we will continue to use, in fact, to address our huge healthcare challenges, we cannot think of anything but marrying digitalization and healthcare, And as I speak to you, even the healthcare sector skill councils which work with us, they are also looking at models. They're looking at ways in which our training can be delivered. The person who actually delivers the care, he also uses technology. All those things are part and parcel of our programs which we're launching. So it's a huge area. I mean, we are trying to work, trying to solve the problem, having ourselves. But if you had some models, if you could share your own experiences, we will happy to engage with you on those things.
I think there was one question earlier on in the seminar as well about how the companies could cooperate under our umbrella with inside our MOU, and I think this is an important question because when we're speaking about vocational education, we cannot speak about vocational education without industries and companies being the partners in this. And there was a specific question concerning how Indian companies could benefit or learn from Edify. And one of the models that we have companies is that what Hanna was earlier mentioning, Education Finland, which is our effort for Finnish companies trying to find business opportunities outside of Finland. So we have currently 130 different type of companies under this Education Finland model cooperating with us, and we are trying to help them finding possible business partners, possible business opportunities where they could try to find solutions for concrete things. And this could be something where we could try to think of also helping private companies finding new ways for future cooperation. What could be your comment on this idea?
Yeah. In the sense, to begin with, all the three legs or all the three elements of this, that is industry, the academia side, and the government. We need to work in tandem if we need to get this going. And I believe what we have between us, the MOU is a very good, I mean, it's a very good kind of document so it is about NSDC and Edify taking the lead. And then I think, I mean, just to structure the opportunity and to make it manageable, I think the first thing is we agree on the sectors where we need to work together. We identify a close set of, we identify a set of employers within the sectors who would work. Say, I'm just giving a figure, say 10 employees from the Finnish side and 10 employees from our side. So we know that these are the 2-3 sectors, these are the 20-30 employers. And then we get into a model which I thought is important from the context of where we are. It's about some kind of harmonization of our qualifications, in the sense we are doing this with other countries. And I think one of the presentations spoke about what we are doing with Dubai, with the UAE, where we are able to harmonize in the sense we are able to, we have shared our competencies framework with them, and they are able to point out that these are the things they would like further in it. And those kind of discussions have happened. And so now we have some kind of seamless possibility, of skilled people being used by UAE companies and Indian companies on both sides. So similarly, I think one is sector, second is getting the employers on board, third is getting this harmonization going, few trades, etc. And then once we know that these are the trades or the job roles which we need to work together, we work on the ecosystem side of it. The ones you mentioned about trainers, curriculum, and things like that, and eventually institutionalize this, in some kind of project format, so that there is a timeline to it, and there is a kind of, in the sense we have some kind of outcomes of this cooperation engagement which we have. So broadly, I think these things are something which, when I hear the conference, when I hear the speakers on this seminar, I think the opportunity we need to crystallize it, through our partnership. Edify and NSDC, we need to come together, and we need to, as you rightly said, get the employers on board for the sectors, for the job roles, get the ecosystem around it ready. And say in a year's time, we say, I'm just throwing a number just for the sake of discussion. Say we say 1,000 people to be trained on a standard which is common to both the countries, so that there can be, say 500 people who could be working in India, 500 people in Finland, kind of thing across the sector. So you actually structure it into a kind of project. I think then we would have done a great service to this whole relationship. I mean, your comments, Samu.
Yes, I think this could be something to look at definitely, and it would be concrete terms, because MOU without concrete actions is just a piece of paper. So I strongly encourage ourselves to take concrete actions, but also the role of the companies in helping us finding solutions for some of the questions in our training. I mean, practical solutions for technology that we are using in training, or pedagogical approaches that we are using in our training. So these are also some possibilities for cooperation, I think, from both sides, and where we could work together on this, definitely.
I think we need to, as you rightly said, let's get concrete. The opportunity looks like quite immense. So let's get concrete, and let's, in a year's time, we have something. When the next seminar is there, we actually speak about people moving, people getting skilled, and things like that. So it looks like a partnership which has really delivered on what it's delivered on the outcomes it was envisaged on. So I think we are at the right spot. We need to take the lead. You and NSDC and Edify needs to take the lead on this, and the framework is there. The system there, under which we can do is there. I think we need to quickly get moving on this. That's how I see it.
Yes, and I hope that we learn to live with the pandemic as well, so that in a year time we could meet in person, because I think there are also it's an extremely good opportunity to use these methods of meeting digitally, but at least I feel that I'm lacking something, not meeting in person, and always that way you can learn more and feel the other person a little bit better. So maybe this is a good goal for the next year.
Sure. So I look forward to seeing you in India. That's the first thing. Maybe when the pandemic moves, I mean, we get ourselves vaccinated and the flights take off. I think it's a great opportunity, Samu, in terms of impact also. In the sense, we are through this process, in the Indian context, we would make a significant difference to so many lives. And that's what the reason we are here as NSDC. And we actually would, to take the system to the next level, to create increased incomes of people. All these are part of our long agenda. So there's a reason why we are there. And I think through this partnership, many of those things can be achieved. So I look forward to working with you, look forward to seeing you in person. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Maybe we can give the floor to the chair and try to catch the time schedule as planned. So thank you very much, Ramkumar, and thank you very much the participants for the attendance of the seminar.
Thank you very
much.
Thank you, speakers, Mr. Samu Sattala and Mr. Arun Pillai, for an engaging dialogue on future areas of collaboration between the two countries, India and Finland, and for charting roadmap for its implementation. This is definitely an encouraging start, and we look forward to a fruitful and mutually beneficial relationship. Before we get to the closing of this webinar, I would like to take a couple of questions from the audience. There is a question for the IT panel on digital skills, which was discussed earlier. But considering India has a big population of youth, do we think that the current basic IT skills would still be relevant, or the new emerging trending IT skills like artificial intelligence, machine learning would be important to be future ready? It's both from the India and Finnish perspective. So I would request if the IT panel, if they're still around, can take this question. Sorry, the panelists have dropped out. So maybe we would like to close the session here. And as we kind of come to an end of the webinar, I would request Dr. Mika Tjöränen, Counselor of Education and Science, Embassy of Finland, to say the closing remarks, please.
Thank you, Ruchika. I hope my voice is audible.
It is pretty clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, it has been such a pleasure to follow this very inspiring and interesting and important discussion. I first want to express my gratitude to the Indian Embassy in Finland, Honorable Ambassador Kumar. He has been doing a wonderful job, and also colleagues in NSDC, lovely work to put this together, and also Edify colleagues. I think this is really important discussion, and happy to have this kind of follow-up to this MOU that has been signed earlier. Like Ambassador said earlier, this is part of the ongoing dialogue between our countries, where one important landmark was this Prime Minister's meeting in March. One thing that was not yet picked up from that discussion was that the premiers touched upon the issue of digitalization of education, different aspects of that, which is of course very topical now due to COVID time. So I think many talks and opinions today have continued this line of thinking that digitalization is certainly both in learning and in teaching very important thing so that we can provide these crucial skills to our students and to our teachers. We need to upskill our teachers as well in this area. So Ambassador mentioned earlier this high-level dialogue, and we are truly fixing the date now. That, like many of you know, the education minister in India has changed, and we were very happy to meet him just last week. And we decided to activate and meet very often. So the next meeting will be next week, actually. So we are now changing ideas very often on these issues and keeping these wheels running. When I was thinking about this webinar in advance, I put to the paper some potential areas of collaboration, and I was very happy to see that actually all of them were touched already by other speakers, and I was very impressed by these conclusions made by Mr. Arun on their potential domains of collaboration, because it was actually very much the same that I was thinking. So the skilling for companies, Finnish companies in India, and also I think the Indian companies in Finland. That is certainly one thing that we got to focus on. And we have this workforce shortage in Finland, and then this abundance of talents in India. So that makes us a perfect match, certainly. And collaborating in the VET system itself certainly is a very good idea. Focus on trainers and their professionalism, on curriculum development, taking the elements of entrepreneurship, and then also these cross-cutting issues like climate change, for instance. These are very important areas. And then this topic raised by Samu, teacher training in vocational education, that is the cornerstone of vocational education and training. And then this industry engagement, like mentioned in many talks, I think it is very good thing to take forward. I think the time is right now. India published this very ambitious education policy last year, NEP 2020. And when I read that policy, I was very happy and impressed, because it shares a lot of those visions and practices that we have in Finland. So finally, I think that we are in the very same map. It's very easy to discuss when we share this kind of vision. And then it is all about just implementation. So how we find ways to do things together. I think very important thing is this, what was mentioned by NSDC colleagues, this IISC network of training centers and their ongoing collaboration with so many countries. I think this is a very good benchmarking thing for us to look together, that how could we apply this with Finnish stakeholders and education providers? How could we take them into these schemes and make things together? And also related to this is the fact that what was raised by Edify presentation, that pretty much the focus is on workplace learning, upskilling and reskilling and lifelong learning. So learning should take place all the time, upskilling and reskilling of workforce. And this is something our stakeholders have been doing in Finland. We try to do it in our own country, and that's where I see also a very great opportunity between India and Finland. And then very nice, my last thing that I want to raise here, I think it was very interesting to hear this discussion about well-being and issues related to that, and think that we both countries have this very specific thing. We in Finland, we have sauna, and you in India, you have yoga. And I think that this is something certainly we have to develop together. We need to combine sauna and yoga and create some new kind of well-being procedure around this. And I'm so much waiting for the time when we can meet again in person and go to sauna by a lake or wherever, and then also experience some yoga together. That has been a wonderful discussion. I think I'm ready to close my part, and really thankful for all of you, and I love to keep in touch, and please send me emails and messages whenever anything interesting in mind. We are here now in Delhi. The embassy is fully functional here. And the last piece, I could say that in the next week, Thursday, October 7, we start an interesting Future is Made in Finland webinar series where we introduce Finnish education system that is pretty much on a higher education level, but also introducing some elements of Finnish culture and society. I can give you more information on that very happily. So thank you very much, and this was my part. So bye-bye.
Thank you very much. So as we come to the close of the session, I would like to thank all the audience who joined us today for this webinar, India Meets Finland. And I would also like to express my gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Ravish Kumar and Her Excellency Ms. Ritva Korkonde for their valuable insights, and the esteemed panelists who were there for the session today. Thank you and namaste.
Thank you.